Hello, everybody, and welcome to Adobe Live. We are here today. My name is Brent Davidson. This is my second time going on the stream here. Really happy to have you. We're going to be doing some awesome stuff in Adobe XD today. We're going to make some pretty cool design work. And then when we get done with that, we're going to say, well, great, awesome, Adobe did fantastic. But what do we do? How do we get it onto the app? How do we code it up? So I do have a thing I'm going to try today. This is totally brand new, untested waters. And this is the Emergency Designer Toolkit. When you get to the end of your design, all you have to do, speak into it, and make an emergency call for a developer. They're going to come assist, and they're going to come tell you all the great things that are great about your design, all the things that are bad, and you're going to work together to get it into people's hands. Should we give it a shot? You guys are all thinking, what are we doing? You've never seen this in Adobe XD before. All right, we're turning it on.
Emergency, calling developers. Emergency, calling developers.
You ready? And we have a developer, everybody.
Hi.
Out of the ether, we have the wonderful Andrew Watson.
Hello.
Why don't you go say hello to everybody?
Yes, hi. That actually works. You can try it anywhere. Just get a blowhorn and you can just yell and we just show up. That's what we develop.
Emergency.
Oh, we only have one. We only need one developer today.
Yeah, only one.
It gets dangerous. Yeah. It's a very powerful tool we have here. Shipping soon in Adobe XD.
Yeah. Anyway, my name is Andrew Watson and I'm an Android developer on the Spark team. Hello chat, by the way. I've been working on the team for about 6 months now, and it's been really great being here. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this because I look at designs like this all the time, and it's always very interesting to go from design to actually an app. And so I hope that we can cover some things that we haven't talked about before maybe on the stream, and you can learn because there are so many good designs that it would be awesome to
totally true.
Make them actually live.
And just a little bit about me, I work also at Adobe. I'm also on the Adobe Spark team, and I'm a designer, if you couldn't figure that out already. So you guys know a lot more about what I do, and we're gonna go through do a concept app today. I see some funny Mark Hood in the comments. What is happening?
We have no idea.
Dima wants to see if we can get one of these wonderful microphones for summoning the money tree.
Oh yeah. We'll try that off stream.
Yeah, well, it actually worked really well. We do have a lot of money here, but it's the green screen. So there's a large pile of cash, but it's the green screen. Money's green. You are in the U.S. Our money's green.
Yeah. Sorry, you can't see it. You can't see it. You can't.
Waving to Veronica.
Hey,
Thank you very much, Veronica. Awesome. And Francisco, here you go. Thanks for the comments. This is gonna be fun. So we're gonna take just a moment here to talk a little bit more about the context of today's stream. We introduced ourselves. I'm a developer. He's a developer. I'm a designer. And I don't know if everybody in the stream has necessarily worked with a developer before. You're definitely familiar with at least the basics of screen design and doing things in Adobe XD, Photoshop, Illustrator, hopefully XD. But the problem is that you do all this stuff, you post it online, you get a lot of great feedback, you do your prototyping, your user testing, you've got a promising product coming together, and at some point, if you want this thing to be out on an application, you're gonna need to have a developer. And when I go online and I'm on Behance and looking through people's portfolios, there's always really great work. But you often can see, that piece there, this other piece here, this part of that form, this part of that flow, it's gonna be really hard to pull off. And so what we wanna talk about today is make an awesome design in XD, but then have Andrew here go ahead and talk about what are the challenges that we're gonna end up facing.
Yeah.
Because what we see on screen in one application, the design application, doesn't always translate one-to-one to what Andrew sees and how Andrew works in his environment.
Yeah, in fact, like, it's quite surprising. Like, I think if there's one main theme of this entire stream is that every decision you make in your design probably has an effect on your developer. Like, you'll probably hear me saying that over and over and over again because it's surprising. Like, you just don't even think about it. But every little decision may have an impact, and it might make things easier, it might make things harder. It may not even be possible. It might involve custom code because, as developers, we want to bring these designs to reality. But it might involve writing actual, code, that sort of thing. So that's kind of the overview of this entire discussion, because and you'll hear that as we go along. And so the hope is that maybe by seeing some of those things, kind of hearing how a developer thinks, it can help you in your designs in the very real world and that sort of thing.
So yeah, for anybody who's just getting started in design, this is going to be really a great experience, eye-opening for this sort of other world that's out there. For people who are already working, they're going to see a different angle, of senior developer here. He focuses a lot on Android work. So, there's obviously a lot of differences between Android, iOS, web, all kinds of different stuff. Taking a quick look through the comments, a lot of awesome things. We got Stone, who's a developer.
Yes, I saw that. That is.
We're going to look to some questions and comments from that. John M., thanks for saying hello. Glenna, Jennifer, Ebbs 2.0, Squad E in the house. That's our coworker. Nice. We would like it to be known that we have extended repeated invites to Ebenezer to come on the show. Yeah. As a guest, he could come in and wave, say hello. And Ebenezer, we're on for 2 hours. Yep. So
just come
after
to the stream.
lunch, if you're feeling it, come on by.
That's right.
We got Samar, UX UI designer. And Jesse, great comment. This is a great topic. It's just not talked about enough. With a flame emoji. Yeah. And I totally agree. It's really just two sides of the coin. Doing this is just as important as doing great, design without constraints. So that's part of the process. Yeah, and also, I think too, one thing I'm very passionate about, and I also think I hope this content can really help people, is just working on the collaboration between designers and developers. Exactly. The best thing you can do is, as a designer, go to, if you've got a developer, talk to them, ask them about things, and just go back and forth. The best work I've ever done has been where I'm very much working with the designer and coming up with things, making trade-offs and that sort of thing. So, it's always kind of sad to me when I hear we have our designers, but they just kind of kick it over the fence and stuff. Exactly. On Spark, we really try to do that. I've had a lot of great experiences already. Just working directly with the designers, and it's so cool what you can come up with. So, just like this. Just like this, that's right, yeah. Well, let's go ahead and switch over to XD. We're gonna look at a couple fun things here today. We've got, actually, this is, like I said, my second time going on Adobe Live. So the first time I came on, we made a awesome little video editing application. And I'm just gonna run everybody through this as a quick refresher. You can go check it out, in the archives. This was a little ways back, but if you search around for my name, Brent Davidson, on Adobe Live, you'll be able to find it. Well, after we do this, I'm going to go back to XD, and we're going to start designing a fresh screen for this app. And then, like I said, Andrew's going to tell me everything that is going to be really challenging with it, or different pieces like that. One thing that just popped up in the comments from Content Studio: can I get away without learning how to code? So great question and expectation setting for this session. Yes. We are not going to teach you how to code. Yeah. And it's important to note that I don't know, how to code what Andrew knows how to code. Andrew's a senior developer with a whole lot of years of experience. He's an expert on Android development. We have very, very different bodies of knowledge, and the goal here is to not merge those two. But the goal is to understand our common vocabularies, the different ways we're trying to achieve the same goals, and how we can really get at what we're trying to create together. Yes. It's going to be nerdy, it's got to be nerdy. But no, the point here isn't to show, code or just to show you that it's going to be nerdy. That's right. That's right. I brought my nerdy logos. Yeah, he's got all of his developer language stickers. Yes. But yeah. So the point here isn't to get into the code or anything like that, but more to really promote and show this collaboration and say hey, you just added that one thing and it just added 10 hours of work for me or whatever. Exactly. So yeah. So let's jump in and you'll see this stuff in action here. To kick it off, I'm just going to click through a bit this application from last time. So let's just say that I've logged in, created an account, and I've been dropped into sort of the home screen. So here I can see my couple projects, and it helps when you click on the right spot. Here I can see a couple projects here. We're sort of pretending that this is maybe an application that somebody's using to make content, paid for hire. Hopefully this is a little more professional than just post on Instagram or something. If I want to go ahead and open up this project, I go ahead and click that. You can see XD Auto Animate. It's making this super easy to go through. I don't have to do anything special to get that expensive looking animation. It's super, super nice and smooth. I'm gonna ask Andrew to not review the application yet, because we've already hit a point that is not one-to-one between the design world and the developer world. The goal is to get the output to be the same, but the way he does it might be very different. So we'll get into that in a bit. Looking at this awesome design here, Baja days, taking a trip down to Mexico, going surfing. If I want to click on the text and edit that, I get a couple nice basic text options here. Couple options on my fonts. Let's go back and just show you guys what else this thing can do. If I want to go and add a bunch of content, this can do different kind of pieces. Fun little interaction there. Again, given to you for free by Adobe XD, Auto Animate. And like a fun fun menu for picking transitions. You could imagine a lot of fun swiping these side to side, applying your transitions in real time. A lot of fun stuff. Get the old spin transition. We could put in some silly ones like from, back in the old Microsoft PowerPoint days. Get the crazy. No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. So, anyways, that concept app does some cool stuff.
Can you show me how do you do animations in XD? Like, how did you do that?
That's a good question. Let's just do a real basic one here. So I'm just going to call this artboard 1, and then artboard 2. So now everybody, what we're doing, if you just joined, we've got Andrew here, who's a developer on the Adobe Spark team. I need to get my Spark mug better placed.
Yeah, right here.
On the Adobe Spark team, my name is Brent. I'm a designer on the Spark team. And we're gonna go through and show some limitations of just when a design meets code and how you work around those, work together to get a still really great design output. Andrew just asked a question of how do you do animations in XD? I know there's been a lot of really great deep dives, but if you haven't seen those deep dives here on Adobe Live, we'll just go ahead and show you kind of one here. Andrew, what's your favorite color?
Oh my, purple.
Purple?
Actually, it's my son's favorite color. So
there you go. We got a purple. What's your son's name?
Emerson.
Is he watching right now?
He may well be watching the stream right now and probably trying to click on the screen. 'Cause he thinks any screen you can click on, which is really nice.
Well, yeah, there's probably a lot you could talk about.
Yeah. Designing for a 2-year-old. That'll be a future stream.
Exactly. So real simple. We're in design mode. I go up to here to the left-hand corner, go into prototype mode. Got my little blue arrow here. All I do is just click and drag it over. And then what I actually want to be doing, my bad, is clicking on this arrow here. So when I tap on the square, and then I'm going to add that in the reverse. Real simple here. Going to go over and change that transition to auto animate. We're going to change this one to auto animate as well. And auto animate, you will see, does some really nice things where we can go ahead and get a very for free. It almost feels like we've built a game.
That's nice. That's really nice. I wish I could do that.
This probably takes Andrew just a half an hour to get that set up.
Yeah.
And just
half hour, that'd be nice.
Since this is really fun messing around in XD with no sort of set objective, auto animate is really powerful. So we'll be able to do things like this too.
Wow.
So now I can change shape. And this is really the core foundation of a lot of really amazing XD prototypes that you see out there.
Wow.
Andrew, we got the chat and win countdown.
Yes, that's right. That's right. All right, cool.
15 minutes till we're going to do a little chat and win action. So just a heads up.
Excellent.
Now let's take a look through the comments here.
Well, so Sierra has said that they're a designer, not a coder, and they struggle communicating with their developer team on a daily basis. And you said, I believe it'd be helpful to have some understanding of the code. And I hear this a lot, and I've experienced this, where the developers and the designers just speak a different language. There's just not good collaboration, that sort of thing. And so yeah, I feel your pain. And so what I can say though is that, again, you really don't have to have an understanding of code to work with a developer, ideally at least. And so I think again, if we can, help promote anything, like helping promote that collaboration and that discussion and just going through designs. Like I can tell you that design, that auto animation that you just got, I mean, it's so cool, but if you show that to any developer, they're going to, like an Android developer, let's just say, because maybe you have one with you.
Maybe there's one on the stream.
Yeah, maybe there's one on the stream. Yeah. They're going to look at that and be like, I either have no idea how to do that, or I know how to do it, and it's going to be so much work and that sort of thing. And just knowing those things up front, and so just definitely having those conversations. So, Max says, as a developer, I wish it was that easy to create motion. It's like every developer's dream, just wire things up. Now, what I will say, this is a little promo for Android development. Android development has added a new component recently called a motion layout. And actually, it sort of does some auto-tweening for you. You can set up your beginning state and your end state, similar to what you just did. It doesn't look like that at all. But it's making animations easier, and I've actually used it. It's pretty cool. So, as your Android developers keep up on, the best, concepts and way of doing things, you may find that certain things get unlocked and actually become very easy. I have no idea about how to do it on iOS. It's probably super difficult and probably shouldn't be done. So whatever.
Andrew's very biased.
Yeah, no, not at all. I'm totally neutral. Yeah.
So, good segue to sort of start talking about some of the things we'll actually build here today. I was starting to get just started on a login screen. So I gave you.
Wait, why would we want a login screen?
Well, I gave you the quick tour of the application that we built last time, the basic video editing kind of social media app. But we hadn't done any way to get into the app. So step one, if we want to make this thing real, we're going to have some way to give you an account so that we can know who you are, load your projects, have your projects associated with a particular email address, so that Andrew can say, hey, I see that this is person 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to pull those projects. And it's pretty obvious, but we're so used to these things, but there's actually a lot of work that can go into making all that happen.
Yes, I can say from a developer perspective, something as simple and seemingly trivial as a login screen, an account screen, there's tons to talk about.
Totally. So I'm going to go ahead, and our little design task here for today is to make a login screen that's going to match what I just showed you, visual design-wise, interaction, style guide, etc. And then along the way, we're going to get some chime in.
Yeah. Someone just asked a question. How could I make...
These are human beings, Andrew. Yeah. They're not robots.
They're not fellow...
Yeah. Well, we actually don't know that.
That's true. That's true.
That's another conversation. Click here to how many street signs there are in the photo.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But someone said, how could I make small interactions like hovers? And I assume that means in XD. And XD can prototype button states and stuff, obviously, right?
Coming soon.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. That's something we'll talk about too, because...
Yeah, but I would say, for the concept level that's where we're living in today, and also on mobile, the states are certainly very much a web thing. So today it's not going to affect us a whole lot not having it. That is true. So, got a question. Where did I get that shirt? I think I've had this a long time. I'm very stylish. I've been very stylish for a very long time. Yeah, that's how I ended up being a designer.
I thought about wearing the same shirt.
I'm just kidding. I have had a long time. It remains a secret. We can divulge a lot on Adobe Live, but I don't think that's one of them. Yeah. All right, Andrew. So walk us through a few things that we might want on a login screen. And this is, by the way, a great way to actually have a conversation.
Yeah.
The feature doesn't always start with design saying I've got this thing finished. I know there's a lot of complexity here, and I want to just start by having him involved in the conversation around what are the requirements.
Yeah. So the big question for any developer when it comes to a login screen is what's going to be doing the login, what's going to be creating the account. Mm-hmm. And so the moment you put an email address input on your login screen or sign up screen, you just committed some developer somewhere to make it possible to log in with an email address. And there's a whole host of questions around even that. There's something called an API, which is what every app that you talk to the internet, is talking to is this API. And so like you would need like an email API where this app can say, hey, so-and-so email address is trying to log in. And so the question is, where are you at with your product? You know, do you have a team of developers? Do you not? And so if you're you know, if you're going to have an email login and you're maybe just concepting or something like that, but you know it's going to go to, you know, a dev team, maybe you don't have an email sign up because you don't have that API or that, you know, that programmer to do the email login. So then the question becomes, do you want other methods of login? And so I assume we're going to get to that as well.
Totally. Yeah, so we'll leave that one uncorked for the moment,
That's
other
right.
methods.
Sneak preview.
But even just simple things like, this is a little bit more on the UX flow, but you know, we get distracted a lot of times with some really, you know, advanced visual design things that'll happen, and then we sort of forget some of these fundamentals of, you know, there's a little bit different scenario that you can do here. If we say we're coming to the application for the first time ever, and you know, we want to start with an account creation, we can ask you for your email, a sign up button, or we can ask you right away for email and password. This is a pretty basic like UX flow difference, but I think it's important to talk about because login, you know, exists for sort of everything. So let's say we just asked for email. You know, now we can say create a password. We already know your email, so Andrew's got that stored.
Yep.
And then we could say, let's get rid of that one. Let's get rid of forgot password because you don't have a password. We'll keep login because maybe you're in the wrong spot. But this gives us the ability to then put in like, you know, minimum 8 characters. What's another good one, Andrea?
Need to have like letters and, you know, at least one number, one piece of punctuation, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Here's a good question. Why is it always such a random, like why can I use a exclamation point but not a dollar sign? Like, do you have can you answer for the
Oh my
developer
gosh, can I
community?
answer that in a non-nerdy way?
I mean, like, why you gotta be difficult?
I actually, the answer is because we want to be. You know, we have very little power as developers to, you know, make things happen. So it's just like, you know what, you can't use that hashtag. So no, there are weird things with like the way servers kind of process text and stuff, like server being where the API that the app talks to, and so some characters, some text is easier to kind of handle other than others and that sort of thing. So like, you know, spaces are a big one. Right? You can't really have a space in your password because the computer thinks that that space means something different than
Interesting.
You know, like your exclamation point or whatever. So
There you have it.
there you have it.
Computers are still working on it.
That's right. That's right. We have no idea what to do with spaces. That's unsolvable.
Welcome to maybe in 2020 AI will solve
maybe.
spaces.
Yeah.
So here's, I'm just kind of riffing off this a little bit. I haven't even applied any, you know, styling or anything to this. We're just kind of this base.
And I can say that even like, it's interesting because, you know, as a, you know, oftentimes I don't get to see designs at this state when I'm working on an app, but even, you know, we can have all the same conversations, most of the same conversations that we would have around this login form before you ever do any design.
Exactly.
So even if you can collaborate with your developer at this point, you can cover so many things. Someone's asking, Christina's asking that can you add the Apple ID login to an Android prototype, or I assume an Android app? And the answer to that question is I actually don't know. I personally have not seen whether or not you can connect an Apple ID to an Android app. I'm gonna guess you can. You know, there might be a disturbance in the force if you do that, but you could. But I can investigate it too. We'll see. Anyway.
Cool. So just from a design, you know, UX flow perspective here real quick, we've kind of got these two screens on the left, one screen on the right. And like I said, this is pretty just, you know, foundational kind of UX flow things, but there's a big difference here because if we ask for your email and password to sign up in the same form, now we're gonna have to fit in our password things here. You know, that can be done. It's just a consideration, you know, you have to make, you know, depending on each design, how many, you know, users you might have, depending on other applications maybe your company's done. depending on different reading you can find. I'm sure there's different theories on which one converts faster. But you'll see later on where we're sort of taking this design, how there's no cut and dried answer to these things, and just because like one study said, oh, having email and password on the same form, converted signed up users way faster. It really has a big UX difference, and so I think you'll see where I take this later, that it'll be a two-step one, and at least I would think that the experience would be pretty nice. And I think you see a lot of applications going towards just starting with one piece of information, because some of these sign-up forms are much more complicated. We're just going to do email and password, but what if you're signing up for a bank? They might want to know email, or they're definitely going to want to know email, name, last name, address, social security number, maybe some other banking information. You don't want to put all that on your main screen. So just fundamental job of UX design and product design is thinking through those flows. And we chose login as the example for this because there can be a lot of impact on both for account creation, but especially for login, of how now that we have this information. So Andrew created a database. How do we know? How does the computer know when it gets that email address if it's truly you?
Mm-hmm.
And so the higher security logins have these really crazy complex flows to take you down all these different paths, depending on your sort of security fingerprint.
And all those questions around like what is your security fingerprint is going to be completely dependent on the development ecosystem that you're living in. What is the type of app? What is the security requirements? Even something as simple as what are the password requirements? How do you decide what those are? You need to come up with that. You need to, weigh pros and cons around what is secure, what isn't, how long, that sort of thing. So again, like if you can know some of those things when you're designing, before you design, it can be really, really helpful because you can have all the states around like, oh, you didn't put this character in or that sort of thing. Sammy asks, do you guys normally work side by side, and what does your communicate?
We normally actually work face to face.
Yeah, it's very intense, very, very intense.
I just stare at Andrew all day. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, but I like it.
No, we work nearby. We're on the same area of desks, on the same floor. Teams are set up in different ways. Our team, our assigned seating is with our design team, and he's with his engineering team, but we're about a 30-second walk away from each other. And then obviously, we have a lot of meetings and collaboration time together. You could make a pretty good argument that we should sit side by side, but the reality of it is on a larger team, both Andrew and I work on a variety of different projects, so we're not always working together and everything.
Yeah, I think as far as collaboration is concerned, at least having like sort of initial sync ups, talking through what the feature or the app or whatever is going to do, and then even having an initial conversation like that, a developer could get started implementing some things, and a designer could get started, and having like a daily check-in. I've had projects here at Spark where we are kind of checking in each day, but then also just having lots of conversations on, we use Slack, just ongoing conversations, throwing, like the designer will send a design to me, and I'll look at it, that sort of thing. But often, just walking over and talking to the person is super
So
helpful.
Chat and Win is coming up here.
Yes,
in
oh my gosh,
8
in 7 seconds. Whoa.
Just go ahead and you'll get a sweet introduction here. You're gonna chat, you can win Sticker Mule stickers.
Yes. So it is time.
So up for grabs, a big pack of custom Sticker Mule stickers from stickermule.com. And we are gonna go ahead and do Chat and Win.
Hey.
Awesome. All right, we got the Chat and Win robots on it. Go ahead and make a comment here so you can be in the action. We're going to do comments for a moment. We've got...
People are asking about making the transition from graphic design to UI UX design. Is that something you did?
Yeah, it's a great question. So actually, that's probably your most common way that people end up becoming UX designer, product designer, experience designer. These are all kind of, same flavor, same titles of the same flavor of job. I actually have a very different background. I have 2 undergrad degrees, one in journalism and one in finance. And I was really into photography growing up, so I followed that to journalism school. And then I was interested in business as well, ended up doing a finance degree. And along the way, got involved with building news products for large news organizations. We have a winner.
Hey!
All right, Case Cervantes, we've got a winner. We'll reach out and get you your Sticker Mule pack, the fastest and easiest way to buy custom stickers. Post in the comments if you've ever used Sticker Mule.
Yeah.
I know we've used this at the office before. Great way and super fun way to make your screen designs tangible. I would recommend not printing out my wireframe UI for your Sticker Mule. Make something cooler than that.
I opened my laptop so you can see my stickers. I like repping all sorts of things here. I'm a little disappointed though because the Android, Andy, his name is Andy, it's a good name, he's not green because of the green screen. But he's a very pretty green, let me just say that. And then so these are all sorts of stuff. So you should make stickers that your developers can put on their laptops.
So awesome, great for the chat and win winner today. I was just saying that in college I got involved with working with computer science students to make real projects for outside clients, and just kind of discovered the UX role and learned that despite what you may think, journalism and finance is actually a decent foundation because you have to do a lot of communicating. And then in a business you have to be working with numbers a little bit. If you're bad with numbers, don't shy away from design. It's not required. But there are opportunities to look at your click-through funnel rates and kind of what people are doing in the analytics and things like that.
But so how would you recommend somebody, are there any good resources to go from graphic? Because what's interesting is for myself, they kind of seem like the same thing. Like a graphic designer can just make app designs, right? And I'm sure they're completely different disciplines. So how would a person start making that transition from designer to UI, UX? Are there good books or anything?
And that's a great question. At the end of the day, right now, we are starting in UX design. We'll kind of finish in graphic design, visual design. The foundational book that I'm sure a lot of people have heard of is The Design of Everyday Things by, I just blanked.
It's okay. Hey,
He's
can
really
someone
famous.
In chat?
Don Norman. Don Norman. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Any books that people in chat have too? I would love to see what people have done in chat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting book, and he talks about essentially how do you know that this mug's handle, is a handle? I mean, it sounds like stuff that you should be on drugs for, but it's actually quite fascinating.
Yeah.
And you don't post on comment if you're on drugs, but that's bad. But if we think about okay, I know that this has a handle, I know that water can go in it. How do I know that? And he uses that as the foundation to go all the way up through digital design.
Wow. Okay, that's
so
cool. Very cool.
That's a good one. Another really good book that I always refer people to is more on the UX research side, but it's still these foundational pieces, called Hidden in Plain Sight by a guy named Jan Chipchase, first name spelled Jan. And I see Kyle Brown just suggested The UX Team of One by Leah Bewley. Great book, and I actually used to work at Intuit with Leah Bewley, and I can recommend her strongly. So definitely go read that book, and shout out to Leah.
Nice.
So one other question, then we'll get back to XD, was what about the switch from designer to programmer? I think that was the question. I didn't see
somebody
who
ask
asked
that?
it. Yeah, sorry, I forgot. I didn't see the username who asked it, but
yeah.
Go ahead and just kind of comment on
that.
Yeah.
You do see that. People, what's interesting is, so I got my development start doing Flash development. I did development before that, but the interesting part of my career is Flash. Back in the day, Flash was totally awesome, a great Adobe product. And Flash was this interesting product where you would see a lot of designers sort of touching the programming space, because Flash kind of unlocked a lot of cool things through programming. You could do a lot without it and a lot with it. And where I'm from, there was actually a whole conference devoted to designers who were doing lots of cool things in Flash, and many of them talked about how this tool kind of got them into coding and that sort of thing. There's a lot of similarities, believe it or not, within even designing and programming in terms of designing for constraints, programming for constraints, knowing your users, that sort of thing. And personally, I get super pumped up and jazzed when I can build something that's really cool and people are like really excited to use it. That's pretty much why I got into mobile design. Or I'm sorry, not mobile design, mobile development. And so, yeah, like I would say like, if you're interested in programming, just kind of try it. Try, reading tutorials. There's a lot of stuff out there, and I won't vomit a bunch of the stuff to look at for programming. But all I can say is start with an idea and try and make it and see where it goes. And being able to do both is really powerful in the development world. I can say that, because sometimes maybe there isn't a designer, or if you just need to pinch hit for a designer, that can be really helpful. If you are just joining the stream, just in case people are popping on now, my name is Andrew Watson. This is Brent Davidson, and we are talking about the designer-developer workflow. I'm an Android developer, and he's a designer, a good one. As you can see, he just clearly knows how to click. He knows how to click really good. And so, yeah, we're talking about what might be what sort of things you need to be aware of, sort of thinking about when it comes to taking your design and taking it that next step to making it an actual app. So Stone Cedar just asked, recommend a language to learn. And that is a very big question. But I would say if you're going to learn a programming language,
try to speak Andrew.
What?
Yeah, try to speak Andrew.
Yeah, try to speak
it's a
Andrew.
Challenging language.
Yeah, it's
you just have to start by talking really loudly.
Yes, that's just bump the volume up about 20%. Yeah. So for a language to start, I would recommend JavaScript. It's the most accessible. It can run so many different places. And Julia, you're an Android developer. Excellent. Good. And somebody, Emily, just posted a bunch of really good websites to learn resources. But like I say, I would say JavaScript, and then you can start building web pages. You can very easily code like interaction, and you can run web things in mobile apps as well. So you're just probably going to get the most bang for your buck learning JavaScript, and it's also the most forgiving. So if something doesn't work, but just get ready to maybe pull your hair out. So. Yes, and Stone just said Node.js if you learn JavaScript, you can build server-side things as well. Build those snazzy APIs that your developer needs. So Brent, what are you doing here? What are you
There we go. This is great. So I'm just getting kind of the basics of one of these screens framed up here. I'm not really paying too much attention to style yet. We're kind of hitting the line between graphic design and interaction, because I am using some foundations of spacing and grouping. In this case here, like typeface, weight, contrast, to go ahead and say, these are important or sort of not important pieces. And that's it's kind of a good example where we're thinking about what's the larger flow that these fit in. But since we're using visual things to communicate, there's an element of visual design and graphic design that's inherent even just in UX. I'm just looking up on the screen and realizing that you probably can't see the buttons depending on what kind of monitor you're on. I'm gonna go ahead and just give these a little bit of a...
they actually have a color? Oh, they do? Oh, yeah. Look at that. Wow, okay.
We're gonna get it, yeah.
I couldn't see that either.
Yeah, I'm on thankfully I get to work on a brand new MacBook here, so the screen is quite sharp, but this is actually a great point to call out for Android development, is that unlike iOS development, you have no clue what device they're going to be on.
That is right.
And so on a iOS world, the devices cost more, the screens are typically really good. We know there's only so many iOS devices. We can always go ahead and look at our designs on any particular iOS device. The Android world.
Yeah, so just for reference, on Spark Post, Android, I did a search not too long ago, and we have 12 unique devices? 1,200? What do you think? How many unique devices do you think Spark Post runs on?
Can you define unique devices?
Like a device skew, for example. So like the Galaxy S10, Galaxy S9, Galaxy S9 Plus. So like a device skew. How many unique device skews?
Plus, and then you also have the sizes.
No, just skews. Let's just do skews.
So does that include like the big screen size or?
Just that's a good question. Yeah, like any variation.
Got
Yeah,
him. I got him. I don't know. I think it's way more than 12.
It's way more than 12.
I think it's like, I don't know, 500. I have no idea.
12,000.
12,000?
12,000 unique
Not
devices.
1,200. 12,000.
Not 1,200. 12,000. That was over a 30-day period.
Holy smokes.
So there are a ton of Android devices out there, and you don't know what your app is going to be running on. You just don't know. I mean, you can get a rough idea, but the fact is, I couldn't even begin to identify what those devices are. So the way you handle that is Android from the beginning was designed to be very flexible with its device specs. It's a feature, not a bug. And so if you do things the Android way, when you're developing, you can largely know that your app is going to work on, Kyle just said 9 batch for the win. Yeah. So if you do things the right way, it'll just work. And so the way that we as Android developers think about laying out our screens is not in terms of pixel perfect. And I can actually talk about this when I start sort of reviewing and kind of maybe giving some feedback on the actual design. But you don't think in terms of actual pixels, but you actually think in terms of proportion. There's this idea of this dip, which is a device independent pixel, which XD actually does know about, which is really awesome. And so when you take all those things into consideration, what you're dealing with is that your screen is sort of going to flex and stretch, and just because it looks a certain pixel distance on this screen, it's not going to be that. But if you do things right, so like a really good example, let's take this image that you're doing, right?
Okay.
So you've got some buffer on the edges, right? Like it's sort of overlapping on the left and the right and the top side. That's actually a very good thing, because as screens flex and stretch, the amount of that image that you see is going to change. And so that's a very big thing. Like if you just create an image that's like, say, square, that image is going to, maybe not show right on certain device aspect ratios. So having the image sort of have a little bit of extra so that it can scale and pinch and stuff is very, very helpful.
Yeah, and so for anybody that was new information for, welcome to the world of proper, fully functioning software design tools.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
there's a lot of back and forth.
Yeah.
And I'll say that I spend screen design time as a percentage versus meeting with Andrew to sort of go over some of these things versus some of the other meetings we're in. It's probably, I don't know, you could throw out maybe a 30%, 40%, proper screen design time, and then just as much, in the requirements, and then that's including, once they're well underway in development, 3/4 of the way through the coding when design is kind of largely stopped. There's always things that are coming up. And so we spend a lot of time, with developers and really going through these things. And I think that's the challenging part about going from, those in the group that are trying to figure out how do I get started in one of these jobs, in a design job, coming from graphic design or somewhere else, because then you come into the office and this is a whole new world. And so I would recommend, one, focusing on your design skills, because that is typically how you'll get, your first job into the office. But also reading up and meeting people and reaching out to people who you might see, in the Behance community who are also developers, or even in the comments, and whatnot, and have a chat with them. The best thing you can do if you're trying to get started or take it to that next level is, find a developer who wants to make a project with you.
Yeah.
And the internet. There's a lot of people, doing design and projects. Then
there might even be some on the XD Discord.
Yeah, the XD Discord's a really great place. So even if you don't live in San Francisco, like we're fortunate enough, to be able to live in the tech industry and whatnot, there's a lot of ways to get experience with these things.
Yeah. What I can say is I've definitely seen the frustrations that designers can have when like they make this awesome design and then they bring it to me and I have to be like, oh, by the way, your image is gonna have black bars on the side because it's the wrong aspect ratio,
Exactly.
or I literally can't do that in any reasonable amount of time. And so I get that frustration, and that's why, again, this collaboration is so important that you don't have to get too invested in a thing that can't be made. And it's just good to know. And so like the thing I always tell people on Android, and I would say this is to a large extent now true on iOS because they have a lot of different screen resolutions and stuff. There is no pixel perfect. On the web, you can sort of target pixel perfection in terms of like layouts and stuff, but on mobile, there is no pixel perfect. So you're gonna make your design and you're gonna make it look really, really cool. But then when it actually ends up on a screen, things aren't gonna be positioned exactly where you think they should be, but the fidelity can be there. And that's what I try to do whenever I'm taking a design and translating it into development or developing it. But it just needs to be said that you need to be aware that things are going to be spaced different. There's differences in fonts, that sort of thing. So it's just good to sort of have that expectation. So like when you run the app, it's like, oh, that's interesting that it looks that way.
Totally. So I'm kind of getting close to having a little frame out piece here for a login flow. And let's finish typing. Want to reset your password. Sorry, I thought I could do two things at once, but it turns out typing and speaking is quite hard.
Yeah.
So I'll walk you through this little bit of flow here, and then we can kind of talk about some things that we want to change, both for kind of our visual design, and also for some kind of engineering considerations.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get to the thing that we mentioned around other ways to sign in. So, more than email, which you're all familiar with, but from Andrew's perspective, it's more than just a slight difference of a button. So I'm going to go ahead and I've linked this up. You guys can all see how quickly you can go through and create a screen. This is bare bones, but that's fine. That's the fidelity of the conversation we're at. But how quickly you can go and link something together to tell a story.
Yeah.
And so this is a real world, in actuality, design review with a developer.
All right.
And we're seeing how XD's a very fast prototyping ability within the program. It's just right there. Can be used to converse with a developer. So I say, Andrew, great. I want to review the login flow with you.
All right.
I don't need to provide a whole lot of context because guess what? He's logged into applications before. And I'm just going to run kind of through here. So we say, okay, Facebook and Google, sign up with email, forgot password, have an account, login. We've all seen these things before. Hold on one second. I'm going to run through the whole flow.
Just taking notes.
Now let's say I want to start and say we've maybe got some reason we were interested in email. Okay, so we get your email, and we go ahead and create a password. Now, I haven't spent any time on these transitions. That just flat out doesn't matter right now. We're going to go and say, okay, well, earlier we talked about our requirements. Andrew told me that it needs to be 8 characters, and it needs to have, one of these special characters.
But no spaces.
But no spaces, yeah. And it can't be a password you used within the last 30 days, and it can't be a common password, and it can't be a list of banned words, and it can't be, these things actually get pretty deep. So we could spend a lot of time on this, but that's the boring.
Do a whole stream on just
you really
passwords.
Could. Yeah. You could do a whole week's on, so then we say, okay, great, sign up. That's going to complete the flow. There's a whole lot of other things that we could look into. I'm going to just tiptoe down the path of one, and then we're going to come back to like the Facebook and Google sign-in.
Cool.
So let's say you are on this email screen here, and you put your email in, and you hit next, and then that email goes out to Andrew, and Andrew's code says, "Wait, we have that email. Why are you trying to create an account for that email?" And now this screen is not designed at all. But a lot of times we do just start in text. And so, the point of the screen is to say, hey, we found an account for you. We already have an account for brent@email.com. Want to reset your password. There's other things that can be done here and important considerations around what do we reveal. Do we show you, what if you have 2 accounts, for the same email, depending on how the authentication system's set up? Do we show you that email? Well, we probably should mask that for security reasons. If you haven't been in the account for a long time, is there some frozen state that your account goes into? Is there a different process to unlock your account? If it's been a year since you logged in or something, is that a different security profile? For our social video app today, those things are just things we're not that concerned of. There's no social security numbers in here. If that is, well, you probably shouldn't have done that. But we're not asking for it, obviously, anywhere in this app. So this is a whole nother complex, route that next time you log into your bank, you might notice some of these things. Certainly next time you forget your password at your bank, you'll see, kind of see some of these things. 2-factor authentication, is a big one. All that kind of stuff gets really in the weeds between development and design.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at this. I mean, to be able to have your app go from the email screen to, hey, we already found you and we already found your account. That's someone had to program that. There is some API that somebody had to write, create, and then send information back to me as the app programmer that says, hey, the account exists. Now we show them this screen. So you gotta know from your development team whether or not that's what's going to happen. And so designing it is great, but knowing that you need it first is super important.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about the Facebook sign-in, and then I do want to come back to a question that Sammy had posted in the channel a little while ago around keeping design file organized. So Sammy, if you're listening, we're going to get back to your question. Feel free to post up again if we haven't answered or seen my workflow here hasn't answered it. So I left this big purple thing for Facebook sign-in. And if anybody has played with their phone in the interim here and tried to log in with Facebook, you'll know sort of why I'm doing that. And that's because I don't design that screen.
That's right.
So I'm going to switch over, and I'm staying zoomed out because this is my cheater finished file. And we'll just copy and paste these over here. So what I did is took a screenshot of what happens when you use Facebook login with the Adobe Spark Post app, which is what Andrew and I work on. This is a good point if you're just tuning in. I'm Brent Davidson, this is Andrew Watson. We've got the designer, developer, partner feed on Adobe Live today, showing you what happens when your wonderful pixels have to hit the brutal world of Andrew's code.
That's right. It's a brutal world.
I mean, the magical
world of pain.
The magical place that is code. I mean, it's true. It's magic.
Yeah,
you can do
magic.
amazing
It
things.
is magic. It is.
And we need each
But it's
other.
also incredibly painful too.
Yeah, and we need.
It is a world of pain.
We need each other to get these things done.
Yeah, and to support each other through the hard times.
So this would have been, and maybe I should have added another screen, but you would have come from the Spark Post login screen, on the left here. You would have hit, login with Facebook, and then at least on iOS, I have an iPhone. Sorry, Andrew. This what is essentially a web browser comes up, goes to Facebook.com with your information. Andrew knows how it all works. So magic happens. I hit continue as Brent, and then boom, I come back to the app, and this is what I see. So we've entered this very complex world of login, and these are the nitty-gritty problems that you end up dealing with as a product designer. It's not all gradients and splash screens and illustrations, and rounded corners. There's a whole lot of work that goes into this stuff. So what's happening on this screen here on the right is kind of what I showed you before. There's already an Adobe ID created using this email address, Brent Davidson. That's my email. You can wave hello if you want to follow up the conversation. Connect my Facebook account to this Adobe ID. Sign in with your Adobe ID. So there's some other stuff. We're not getting into details here, but basically this would be telling Adobe that, hey, my email is also the email that I use at Facebook, and that would straighten that out. I'm sure that takes Andrew probably an afternoon's worth of work to do. It sounds very easy.
Very, very easy. Yes.
When you're talking about hundreds of millions.
I just drag lines from screen to screen, and the login just works.
So this is a flow that hundreds of millions of people could encounter. At the scale that Adobe is, and it needs to be very robust.
Yeah.
So there's a lot.
But it can be frustrating as a designer because you don't control it. and the experience can be so varied.
Exactly.
Like
And they can change it.
And they can change it, right? Yeah. They can change it, and so it just it's a very unique world when you bring other people's things in, and like you highlighted about Adobe, you have to go from app to Facebook to Adobe back to app, and it can feel a little weird because there's all this authentication, but ultimately it works and it's good, but you want to design these really great flows, and you can so easily get taken out of them,
Totally true. Totally true. So I'll come back to Sammy's question here. This is going to be a great transition. We're going to jump back into XD here a little bit more for proper design, take these screens kind of that next level. And Sammy's question was around how do you keep your design file organized? Separate artboards, and there's one other piece. Like I said, Sammy, feel free to repost if I'm not fully answering the question. First thing I'll do is zoom out on the document I've created here so far. I'm going to go ahead and just delete those sort of extra off screens. These two screens we're going to put aside here. We're not really going to come back to those. First thing I'm starting with for this project was my kind of design system. And then I also had a couple pieces that we'll need from the operating system. So the Android keyboard, Android nav bar, and Android status bar. This is kind of standard. From other streams, they cover in detail how to create components, how to use all your asset styles. I have these entered in here. Super duper time saver. A lot of really great cloud features on XD, ways to sync across teams, etc. And then down here, I just have kind of a general image mood board for the project. In terms of how I organize these screens, I think one of the question that Sammy had was around like edge cases and different workflows. The short answer is for each screen the user sees, you'll have a screen in XD. There's a bit more complexity there around like what's the state of the screen. So did I enter this email address or did I have some error come up? Those things are a little bit more on a case-by-case basis. And I will say there are some interesting, exciting features that I can't talk about coming that will help those. But
Sammy actually reposted the
great.
question.
I'm interested in how you organize design docs. I've had XD documents get really out of hand. Do you separate individual screen designs from the prototypes? What about edge cases? Great. So the first question, do you separate individual screen designs from the prototypes? My prototypes are always the same screens I ended up delivering. So let's just say that, and you'll see this in the feed here, when we make these 3 screens up to a final fidelity, they're also going to have the prototype animations baked into them. And that's really one of the great things about the application is that you don't have to have a separate program for prototyping. You have all the ability to do all your design work here. We just launched the connection with Photoshop, so we also have the ability to go out, if I wanted to do more things, advanced things to this image. But XD should be the hub of those. And then your question about edge cases, from Andrew's perspective, from my perspective, once the decision's made to address, that edge case, there's no difference in kind of importance in how we document, those pieces.
Well, can I just say what I would like to see?
Yeah.
So as the developer who has to implement the edge cases, and thank you for asking about edge cases, because that's a big thing that maybe as a designer, some designer, if you're new to app design, you may not think about. You may not think like, what happens if the email address isn't an email address? What happens if they put a space in the password? What if they don't match the password requirements? Just again, we're focusing on this login screen, and it's it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but there's so many considerations. What's interesting as a developer is I don't necessarily need to see the flow, like the prototype flow, like when you click play and you go through. I don't need to see that. It can be helpful, but I'm used to sort of, and I would say probably most mobile developers are used to working from like static screens and then sort of static screen images, whatever, and then kind of taking that and making it clickable and moving through it and stuff like that. But the more information you can give me about what I need to implement is helpful. So a happy path and negative path are super, super helpful. So, kind of a set of screens that take me through that happy path, a set of screens that show me the error states, and as many as you can think of and handle in those designs. But you don't have to do all of them, right? Like, the error message for minimum 8 characters, and the error message, the way you show the error message for minimum 8 characters, and the minimum or the needs a $, ampersand, whatever. That can be in the same place. So again, the more you can talk with your developer, the better, and find out what they want. But I guess it's sort of nebulous. But what can help me is just seeing all the states that I need to program. And I would say, as the developer, I'm used to thinking, of what those are and asking for them. And so, the more I can be proactive and ask those questions early on, ask those questions as I think of them and get them designed, it can be helpful. But, there definitely doesn't need to be a screen for everything that I'm going to program. And there definitely, it's kind of like more and less than what you might expect. What I can also say is I've looked at a lot of designers' XD files, and if they get out of hand, it can be hard to know what am I supposed to implement here. So the design, the organization that you might put into your XD file is valuable for both you and the developer that has to look at them. And I would say, again, it just comes down to telling your developer, like, this is where you should look. But it can also be helpful to maybe give a copy of the file with just the final designs or something in them, so that there's no confusion. In fact, in working on this presentation, this stream, Brent did give me an XD file, and I started working on it. Actually, we'll get there eventually, but I actually started implementing an app prototype, and it turned out some of the designs that I had were wrong, and so I ended up implementing
My fault.
something. Didn't give me the right file.
Yeah.
So even in preparing for a stream about collaboration, we had a collaboration fail.
That is true. I felt kind of bad because I pulled out the file from when I was first on Adobe Live and sent it to him, and then 2 days later I got to my end of the work for this feed, and I had sent him basically the wrong file.
Yep.
So he had started.
Yep. So it's so easy to do. It's so easy to do, obviously.
Yeah. So this is a nice way to kind of pass back and forth, the topics.
Yeah.
So we kind of covered some of those more Andrew pieces, and what I've been doing is just brushing up these screens a little bit. I hope everybody's been watching along.
It's looking good. It's looking very nice.
Slightly, so we can see it past our heads here. Like I said, this feed is a collaboration feed, so I'm not going to walk through every single design decision I'm making here. But just with a couple things, I've been able to tighten up these screens a fair bit. Mm-hmm. So just from the top, I added the font style, the typeface that I have which is Futura. I know Andrew's got a comment on that. Hold your comment for a second. I've added just some visual style things like continue with Facebook and continue with Google buttons. And then I've also added all the fonts have been changed to the color that I wanted from the style guide. And the style guide I created in the previous stream. So go ahead and you can search in YouTube or Google just Brent Davidson Adobe Live. You'll be able to pull those up. There's 2 of them. It goes through, from foundation, wireframing out to, prototyping and all that.
Hey, hold on. I'm just going to interrupt you because I was going to say something in the 30-minute mark. The design feedback countdown is going.
Yeah, good call.
And so you got 25 minutes left to get your designs in for the feedback. And Brent and I are going to look at them. And he's going to talk about them from a design perspective. And I may have some developer-centric comments as well. So
totally true.
So get your designs into Discord.
That's a good plug, and just summarize again, if you're just joining, Andrew's a developer, I'm a designer, it's a collaboration session. We're talking about how we work together and actually make software.
That's right.
Sammy says not a native Android font.
Do I talk about Futura now? Or do you want to?
I
interrupted you. Why don't you finish your, yeah. Okay.
So typeface, color, the sort of high fidelity, buttons, which I got these logo assets from Google and Facebook, and then built a button that meets their style guides, and then just some basic layout like grouping these reset pieces, grouping these pieces, a small visual detail like bringing this image from the top here. It's fine screen, but then having it down, split the button, add some excitement. We could put a little shadow or something in there, but not too big. Everybody gets their shadow so excited. So I'm going to continue doing these pieces, and I'm going to start building a little bit of transition between them using the prototype tools. Because we're going to say that Andrew has more or less thumbed up our design choices here.
Yeah, looking good.
Password requirements have met his needs. We can do email sign up. He's going to build the database
That's
for
right.
the emails.
Make that database. That's right.
We've got some system to send forgot email passwords. There's some logic been applied to for deduplicating the ability to make multiple accounts associated with one email. And he's going to do the work to do the Facebook and Google API login. Snapchat didn't make it.
Yep, that's right.
And yeah, so I'm going to continue on that. Andrew's
Yeah,
gonna talk about
I have a
his
bunch
font
of stuff
thing.
that I can talk about that have come up in this discussion. But the first one is Futura and fonts in general. Fonts in mobile apps are a very, very challenging thing. And for a very, very long time on Android, unfortunately, font support was not great. It wasn't easy. But now it's a lot better. iOS, I think it's generally pretty, usually been pretty straightforward. I'm not totally sure. But the big thing with fonts is that you've got to be aware of what font you're using and how it is going to get into your app. Because the fonts that are included on every Android device are different than what you have on your computer.
Andrew's phone just went off, so he's all distracted.
I'm sorry. My phone is ringing. I haven't done this before, and I'm a developer. I don't know what I'm doing, right?
It's all right.
Anyway,
Continue
yeah.
from where you were.
So yeah, the fonts that are on the devices are not the fonts that are on your computer, and so you need to know how that font is going to get into the app. And so you can embed fonts, right? So you can embed fonts in a mobile app. You can put it into the app bundle and stuff like that. Someone, Content Studio, just said they prefer Papyrus. Papyrus is great if you're making a movie poster, but I don't know about an app. But the deal is that you need to know what the licensing is for that font. If you're going to include a font into your app bundle and deploy it and put it out there in the world, you need to know, can you even do that? I am pretty sure the Futura font is not something that you can just distribute as you please. It's I think pre-installed on Macs. I think there's a version on Windows. I'm not sure, but again, it's not on Android. It's not on Android, and I don't know if it's on your iPhone. So if Brent, the designer, came to me and said, "Hey, we're going to use Futura," the first thing I should ask is, "What's the license for Futura? Can I bundle it in the app?" And we need to know. And fonts are intellectual property, they're owned, by various people, and so even just something as simple as that font can introduce a world of hurt. If you've gone ahead and designed all your designs around the font that you love so much, and then you find out we can't distribute it, you got to go back and change everything. Tanika asked, good sources for font options. That is an awesome, awesome question. I recommend Google Fonts, because all of the Google fonts are some form of distributable. And they actually have licenses for web and mobile. And there's a format or a license, I think it's called SIL, or the Open Font License or something like that, that makes fonts very distributable. And like I say, I don't know if all of the Google fonts are distributable, but there's a large number that can be distributed, bundled in your app, and distributed widely and that sort of thing. So definitely starting with one of those is going to make your life probably easier in the future. And so, and then there are other ones. Look for like open source fonts or free fonts and stuff like that. But just really pay attention to that license, because I've gotten app designs that's it's like Helvetica or something, and I can't bundle Helvetica. That's not going to be possible. So, and another nice note about Google Fonts is that there's actually a way to have them sort of be downloaded. They don't necessarily have to go into the app bundle and bloat up your app size. They can actually sort of be downloaded when they're needed, at least on Android, possibly on, I'm pretty sure on iOS too. Google's usually pretty good about making it available for both. Same thing on web. So just a very, very good site. There's another site that I checked out in the past called Font Squirrel. A lot of good open source fonts there too. I don't know how much that's updated, and I haven't been there lately, but there were some really good fonts that I saw there in the past. So you could check that out as well. So that is fonts. Don't use Comic Sans. Just don't do it.
Or Papyrus came up earlier.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
they just played out. I mean, I remember Papyrus when I think I was in like elementary school.
That's good stuff.
It's, my teacher's poster on the wall.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's what we need to use Spark for now.
Yeah, Steven is saying he uses Futura on a website of his using Adobe fonts. Yeah. It's something so basic, and you can just get bitten so hard by it. And also an interesting note, even if a font is distributable, when I was making the prototype, I did bundle Futura, and it was a TTC, which I had never heard of a TTC. There's TTF, which is True Type Font, or OTF, which is Open Type Font. TTC, True Type Container. I don't know what it was, but that's not something that my app knows how to deal with. So I had to go and figure out how to get the actual font out of that TTC. So Brent just really made life difficult for me, which was awesome. Next Adobe challenge, Sammy, create an app using only Papyrus. Yes, if you can make, how about this? If you can make an app that I want to implement using Papyrus, I will make it for you. How's that? Well, that is what I want to see. Glenna asked, "What's your favorite font? What is your favorite font, Brent?"
I used Futura in this Futura PT, and I'm kind of bad with favorites. I'm always too hesitant to pick a single thing unless it's really polarizing.
Okay.
Blue is my favorite color.
Ooh.
But fonts, there's just so many. The thing is, they're for so many different purposes.
Yeah.
So I saw content studios saying that they really love Papyrus, and I see the appeal, but I would encourage you to go to Adobe Fonts and just search around, for fonts of different types, maybe some kind of hand font, nature, some kind of inspired like that. See what's out there. There's thousands of fonts on there, and fonts, typefaces. You got to say typeface.
Sorry,
legit.
typeface.
Yeah,
I know I
typeface.
got to work on that.
So
Typeface. Yeah.
this is a nerdy. So he's been nerdy there. I'll be nerdy here.
Yeah.
A font is actually a file type that packages typefaces.
Ooh.
So font wasn't necessarily you, and maybe somebody can fact check me. We're Adobe. I should make sure.
Yeah.
That's
You're
100% right,
gonna start busting out typeface knowledge. You better be right.
But as I understand it, that the word font wasn't really popular until sort of computer things. So it's a typeface. So you have multiple typefaces, weights, styles, etc. in your font file.
Yeah. Learning about fonts or like typeface is always interesting, like what like leading and kerning is. Like for a long time I didn't know what those things meant. I just know that they existed, and they actually go all the way back to the printing press, which is pretty cool.
That is true.
So that's something as a developer I wouldn't know by default. so you don't have
I'm gonna say Futura. I'm gonna put it on the
line. You're gonna put
Futura.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you just
Helvetica,
made yourself not an app developer.
Helvetica is a great standard. It's been around a long time. Helvetica is so standard it's now become controversial because should we keep using it?
Right.
But now it's not Android. Obviously, Robato's Android focused.
But Google is actually moving away from Roboto.
Okay.
In all their apps. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but it's not Roboto anymore.
We'll update a little bit. Well, Apple came out with SFUI, which leans on Helvetica, at least in general appearance. I don't know if we have any type experts on here or not, but So SFUI has been a nice general use one, a little refreshed from Helvetica. Futura is a very opinionated font. It's definitely not for every application.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be.
It looks really nice in these designs, that's for sure.
Let me go through here a little bit.
Do the design countdown.
Yes. So
15 minutes. Boom,
we've got
right
a 15-minute flat plug for design feedback countdown. So anybody that's doing the design challenge, go ahead and start thinking about how you're going to package that design, get it up onto your XD share link, up onto the discourse.
Discord.
Yeah, sorry, what did I say?
Discourse.
Sorry, I started.
It's okay. You're a noob.
Started reading the comments
you're a Discord
while
noob.
I
It's
was
okay.
also talking.
It's okay.
So let's go ahead and look at the design here. So what I've gone ahead and done is now added. You saw the first round where we had the very sort of rough polish. Actually, the rough polish, no polish that we were just using to describe, the parameters that we might need with
information.
Andrew. Then I took it just a little step farther to think, okay, how are these pieces all going to fit together? Kind of got the thumbs up from Andrew, on these are the pieces that we want. And now what I'm doing is bringing them up to a level that we would consider, certainly in this amount of time, good for a first pass at something that we might prototype. And I'll run through this. I'm sure some of you have been watching along the screen. If you've just been listening, now's a good time to just jump back over to your monitor. We're reviewing kind of where our prototype is at right now. So we've got kind of this brand image of the surfer. I went ahead, like I said before, and grabbed these sign-in buttons from Google and Facebook.
They provided those. You didn't create those.
Yeah. So this is another kind of long conversation.
Yeah.
Probably they have brand guidelines. Like Facebook actually updated its blue, which I didn't quite realize. It's a lighter blue now. It's a little more friendly.
It's not our blue though, or the blue you've got there.
It's funny. It's actually close to Spectrum Blue, but it's not Spectrum Blue. Okay. Adobe has its own blue used in XD.
So it's Adobe's blue. Okay.
No, it's Facebook's blue.
Oh, it's Facebook blue.
Yeah. Google, red's been used a lot, but now they're saying to use a white background. Obviously, provided these assets. But if you look around different products, even name brand products, they're using these buttons a lot of different ways. It was kind of funny. Facebook actually had a screenshot of the dating application Tinder in their brand guidelines, and they had a gradient over the Facebook button, which I thought was interesting that Facebook was including that in their brand page. But you'll also notice the difference between what the developer specs say and what the marketing brand page says. So it's good to cross-check those. Marketing is going to be more up to date typically.
Yeah.
So great, you're like, okay, I understand this screen, what are these interactions are going to happen next? I got to get you to an email form if you're going to hit email. So let's go ahead and click email. And so we've just transitioned out those pieces, but auto-animated into this little sort of wave here.
Yeah.
I'm skipping one little step here at the moment around getting the keyboard to just fit our existing flow that we had. So let's say I type in an email and I hit next. And now I'm just working that image a little bit farther up the screen with auto animate. You can kind of see how nicely that feature works and also how nice this design works, where we can scale that size, password, etc. We could go through and add, a green success state, for these check marks.
Yeah.
I could get different icons that maybe have a line through the, and then switch it to, a line through the check mark, and then when you meet it, it turns to a normal check mark, that kind of stuff. But there's a detail in here that I'm not totally sure is going to come through on the feed or not, just with the frame rate that we transition this at. We talk a lot on Spark about frame rates. Yeah. So if you look at the little curve line here, I hit email. Now notice that line actually changed. It's curved. Now it's kind of got, it's a little droopy down here and a little flatter on the right. And then I hit it again, and now our curve has changed. It's a little peakier here. That's just a nice touch. In a moment, Andrew can comment on
yes, I can.
how hard that would be or not to do. But it's a nice touch that's going to let you do, a lot of different.
And what is that curve?
Kind of
what is
things.
that in XD? So I
yeah. So and actually this is good. So I skipped a little bit of a step. So this is a masked image. I'm going to make a copy of this, pull it out. And then let's just put a white background so you can see here. All right, so this is a masked image.
Okay.
And then I'm just going to use I'll right click here so everybody can see. I'm going to ungroup. I made it a component too. So I ungroup the component.
Okay.
And if you don't know what a component is, definitely go check out.
I don't know what a component is.
So basically, well, okay, here, we'll do this real quick.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm,
no, it's
if
fine.
I'm
No,
making you.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. This is good. All right, hold on. Pay no attention to the person behind the curtain. Okay, so, just watch the thing on components.
Okay, you know what? Just I'll go back and watch.
We'll do it. Okay. I'm waving some hands here. A component is a symbol. We used to call them symbols. We made a bunch of really awesome
I did Flash
changes to
development.
them.
I know what that is.
There you go.
I know what a symbol is. I love symbols. It's an object instance, is what it is. How about there's for some talk. Yeah. Symbol is the class. Entities on the screen are the instance. There you go.
So anyways, if you don't know the components, go watch one of the tutorials on components. They're super powerful. You make a change in one part of your design, it's reflected in everywhere that you've copied that piece out to. I'm just going to go ahead and undo back to image mask. So image mask is basically, I've taken a shape.
Okay.
I'm going to give that shape a color here just so you can see really clearly. And then I want the red shape here to actually cut out the image.
Okay.
And so I use a hotkey, but it's also in our menu somewhere. Mask with shape. So object mask with shape. Hotkey is Shift Command M. I click that, boom.
And so, but what's the curve on the bottom?
Okay. So what we're actually doing, I'll show you this in the file, but we're actually doing is changing the shape of our mask shape with each piece. So between each of those states, the artboard, I've gone in and made some changes. And you can get pretty wild if you wanted to with these, You could do some real crazy mask shape like that. And if you notice this white border at the top, that's because the image doesn't quite fill. So there we go. Now the image fills the mask shape. And then one little pro tip, if you want to make a shadow, just copy and paste your mask shape again. So now I've got this shape here. I'm going to put it behind my shape. And then I give that lower layer a shadow. So now...
Because if you do the shadow on the image, it won't.
It's just not supported at the moment.
Okay.
So, yeah. If that's something you want, go on user voice, add an upvote for user voice feature. A lot of great things coming in XD, and if that's what you want, let us know. We do listen to those quite a bit. So there you go. We've got 7 minutes and 38 seconds. Another reminder for design feedback countdown if you're working on the design challenge. Go ahead and get that into your XD share link in the next couple minutes, and get it up onto the
Discord.
And then for anybody who's joined us recently, Andrew is a developer on the Spark team. I'm a designer on the Adobe Spark team, and we're just kind of covering different things about working with a developer. We should give a little plug to Adobe Spark. We're going to keep this one XD focused at the moment, but Adobe Spark's really approachable way to do graphic design in an Adobe app. It's totally designed for somebody who's not a professional designer. And we joked about Papyrus before, how I remember seeing it in my elementary school classroom with posters on the wall. That's a great use case for Spark. You go to spark.adobe.com. If you have any quick graphic design needs, anybody from total beginners to total pros to actually use it.
Let's just say Spark Post is meant for people like me, who are not designers, but need to create very, very compelling social graphics and other graphics, posters, whatnot. I actually made an invite for my son's birthday party.
All right. Good Dad of the Year award right here.
That's right.
Yeah, that's good. And we'll be getting at some point some more Spark content on live, but right now we're talking about XD. Let's see anything. I'll check in the comments.
Well, Sammy did ask about masking.
I was gonna say that's exactly where we were gonna go. So now that we've got this little bit of a design here, why don't you go ahead, Andrew, and talk to us about what might be easier.
This is so beautiful and so hard to do. This is the hardest part of everything that we've done up to this point.
So very first question would be around actually so you say it's hard. I know where you're going. So let me give you a little context. what I'm leading into is that it's important for us to talk about where Andrew's going to spend his time on a piece of design. And this is probably one of the biggest things that it takes a little bit of practice, getting to know somebody, getting to know how they like to work, but just getting beyond screen design into implementation. And the thing that we're going to have a conversation about is what's the output of this piece of work that Andrew's going to do? Is it going to be a quick test at the office to see if we can even get it to work?
Yeah.
Is it going to be a user test with 4 or 5 people? Is it going to be something that Andrew's going to put into our application but keep private, so that way we could put it out to 40, 50, 100, 1,000 users for kind of a beta test? Or is it going to be off? We've done all those things and it's off to production.
Yeah.
So right away, he's gonna hit me with questions, but in this case, I'm gonna start and say, jump ahead of that and let me say, Andrew, I know that like the swooshy line thing is not required.
Yeah,
but we really want it.
Right.
But it's not required for this phase.
Right.
However, we are gonna make you do it
Eventually. Yeah.
when we go to production.
Yeah. Right.
So with that context, why don't you talk a little bit about?
Yeah, so it's really what Brent just said is so important, because knowing where you are in that product development creation life cycle is going to help me as a programmer know where to spend my time. We got to prioritize what needs to come first and where are we trying to go with it. Like if we're just trying to get something out the door and get it into users' hands. Like let's say we're trying to get out like a pre-beta or whatever. Let's pick the simplest things that we can do and get it in front of our users. So I won't go into all the details, but that swishy, curved line animation is very, very difficult to program. And so maybe for the first release of the app, the first thing that I make, we just literally just export the image with the curve already baked in with an alpha channel. That's something that's very, very easy. I can put that on the screen.
Baked in meaning not
non-animated, not animatable at all. But looks nice, right? So then, a good question that I might ask is, how important is this motion just in general in the app, right? Like, is this a sort of motion language that we are going to use in more than one place? If we are, that can then sort of help us, maybe know where, like maybe we have like an animation phase or a flourish sort of development phase where we sort of add some of these flourishes and that sort of thing. And so, what I'm going to say is if we're just trying to get something out there, we're just trying to, get it in users' hands, let's not focus on the complicated things. Let's focus on the things we need, like, for example, login in general. But, if we are going to production and it's time to really, make this, super, super awesome, let's take what we've got, what we did in the earlier phases that was relatively easy to make, or easier to make, and add those flourishes. So what I can say is that like masking is something that's generally pretty easy on mobile platforms. It's pretty easy to mask images, even with a custom shape, but you run into complexities real quick. And now if you're dealing with an animated mask, that's more complicated. And if you're dealing with a Bezier, how do I say it? Bezier curve. Yeah. That is the most complicated thing. And so the main question I have around that curve is, can I even get the Bezier coordinates of that curve? Mm-hmm. Do you know how I can get that? Can I even do that?
I'd say we'd have to take that one on.
Yeah. So
possibly SVG related.
Yeah, something like that. So it looks so good, but the way I know that I need to deal with curves like that is I actually need to know the coordinates. I need to know sort of, there's a weird way of annotating Bezier curves, and I don't understand it actually at all. But
so we've got 1 minute left.
Yeah, we've got 1 minute, and I can keep going.
This is important. Design feedback countdown. 1 minute left.
Yeah, 1 minute. So
get your designs out on your XD share link up to the Discord channel.
That's right. So with that, I will just say it would require a fair amount of code to make that, but man, it would be really cool to make that. And that is the sort of thing that I like to program personally. So I would be all about, if a designer gave that to me, be like, hey, let's get this into the app when we get it, when we're ready to invest the time, let's put more motion like that into the app. And it just, they call it delighting users, and
Totally.
that is definitely delightful and so cool.
And with our nice prototyping tools, I can make it even harder for Andrew by using a time trigger on prototype mode in XD. And this isn't refined perfectly, but if you note, there's a bit of a change happening, and our wave is kind of undulating here.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, I set it to be pretty slow because you don't want it to be kind of.
I like that. That's cool.
Overwhelming. So yeah, there you go.
There you go.
We're
it's
at
time for the feedback. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope we made some. I mean, watching that part. Yeah, Sammy. So communication, and more communication. You got the message. That is absolutely 100% correct. Yeah, if there's anything, the more you can work together, the better you're going to be.
All right. Yeah, I was looking at the so bookmark and manage websites for the current challenge today. Awesome. So let's go ahead and open up. We've got Agata today at 10:30 in the morning.
Wait, can you review what the challenge is for me?
It's a Chrome bookmark. We can look at the piece again. Let's get, pardon my desktops here. So over in our Discord, we've got Creative Challenge, and Samantha's posted the one today. Today's challenge is design an interface for a Chrome extension that allows users to easily bookmark and manage sites. And yes, XD challenge. So let's go ahead and open this one with Agata's. I think this one was the previous days, which was a mood board. Let's see here. If we've
These are dates.
These are all still the mood board ones.
Challenges. Are we in the right?
Current challenge. Well, yeah. Why does that say today? With
did we like?
Am I in my weird Discord?
No. You are Discording right. The discourse is correct.
Okay. Well, we'll review
Let's
these.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Go and check in yours. See if I'm disconnected from the internet or something here. So
this.
So the previous day's challenge was around, creating a mood board, and we'll go ahead and review these. Andrew's gonna.
No, you're right. You're right. Yep. Or maybe I don't know how to do Discord.
Okay. Well, go ahead if you're doing the daily challenge. Go ahead and post to the Discord challenge. We'll get to them. We're gonna do the challenge yesterday, which was around creating a mood board, and I think using repeat grids.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So, all right, we'll spend a quick piece here on this mood board from Agata. And first one we're seeing on this creative challenge, overall, this hits me, knowing the challenges hits me pretty well. We've got the title of Moody up there, and mood board is about showing us your things. One thing that jumps out at me, visual design piece, is the border that's on each of these images. It's kind of interesting now that we've got a developer side by side.
Yeah.
I'd say this maybe is something that could key into the color of the image.
Mm-hmm.
So we do a lot of these things in Spark Post, where we're giving you design suggestions based on the colors that we see in the images.
Yeah.
But then again, you also could ask, well, what's the design purpose of that of the border? Mm-hmm. So you can kind of go both ways. I wouldn't say prioritize that. It's kind of a flat, design style. These pastel colors are nice. And then the one thing that I'd say really improve here is definitely down here on the bottom, this menu, there's not enough opacity here. Some alignment issues, but overall this is a pretty good submission.
Did that pop up, or has it been showing the whole time? I just didn't see.
He's been showing, yeah.
It's been there.
On the bar.
No, on the bar. Yeah.
Correct. It's been there the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. There are actually really good guidelines online around navigation components. Google has their material design guidelines, and I don't know if Apple has as many. But there are some, and you should definitely read those because they give you really good information around like contrast and that sort of thing. And so, one of the big things with like a bottom navigation like that is if you're going to use words, you really want to make sure it's very readable. The interesting thing is maybe for a bottom navigation, you don't even need to put words in. Maybe you just have very good iconography, and that's enough. So definitely look those up. And I don't know if anybody can find those in the chat or has seen them, but I really recommend reading those design guidelines.
Yeah.
'Cause they're written by designers for designers.
Just pull them up. You talking about
Go to
Apple?
material.io.
Yeah.
Material.io. Now, and the nice thing about material design is you don't necessarily have to, and so if you go to design up there in the top nav, you don't have to use all of it. You can use some of it, but if you go to, they have like foundation, they have typography, purpose. It's great. I read this because it helps me as a developer know, what sort of, when I'm making these things, what I'm communicating. Because ultimately that's, we're all communicating something.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of glad the conversation went here. We'll get right back to,
reviewing
some of the designs. Material design, I would add this to required reading. Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman, Hidden in Plain Sight by Jan Chip Chase, and Material Design by countless toiling
material.io.
Google designers. Yeah. We also have the Adobe Spectrum one coming up. Actually, can't remember I think that's now public.
If it's not, pretend you didn't know.
I forget. Yeah. Apologies to. It always works on my machine.
That's what I say a lot.
Yeah, that's a developer joke. You guys don't know. It works on my machine.
Works on my machine
because the code running his machine is different than what you're getting online.
No, it's not.
But yeah, just read them all. Different companies have different design systems, but the operating system ones are really foundational. Material design for a long time has gone into a ton of detail on all these different pieces. Gives you a lot of understanding of the decisions that they're making.
And it helps you make good design decisions for sure.
So, great. All right, so this one I think was Ninja Cat for the mood board challenge. This one's pretty different than the last piece. This looks like a web interface, maybe a tablet interface.
Yeah. Okay, this is interesting.
So
I like this.
It looks like I also recognize a bit of Google Drive layout here. So we just talked about material design. So one thing that jumps out at me, material design for the floating action button down here, probably too much shadow. I would assume that doesn't quite fit, the material guidelines, but you do want some shadow because that button floats in its name.
My big head is like totally in the way.
Floats above. Oh, sorry. Yeah, there it is. Look at
Can
that.
you like move it over or something?
Yeah.
There.
Well, whatever. We solved that.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go. All right.
Like hits
move it
you in
over.
the head.
So
We'll just hit you with it. Bam, bam,
I
bam,
am a floating action button. There.
So I'd say the overall one is, if this is an entire application to sort of hold mood boards, it's probably leaning too much on the Google Drive because if we know that it's going to be mood boards, just lean into that. Be opinionated on this is a mood board thing. Maybe there's some more fun swipe interactions if this is web. Maybe start by showing one full screen. If we know what content type is in here, have many, many more options of what to design into. By nature, Google Drive doesn't know what files are in it, and there's just different use cases around that.
Can I say something about the Fab actually?
Sure.
Fab floating action button. Fab placement can be kind of an interesting thing because it can be a little awkward knowing where to put it. But what I know from reading the material design documentation is that the Fab is meant to be the primary action that you want users to take. So if there's something that you have an icon for, and you want this is what you're trying to get users to do. You want to put it in the Fab because it's the primary thing. So you want to give it prominent placement. So what I would I think the material design specs actually recommend maybe putting that Fab. Can I just move the mouse? Like not there, but like up bridging sort of this line. You'll see designs where the Fab is sort of like at the top or whatever, or just being down in the lower right corner, it sort of de-emphasizes it, perhaps. Like in a mobile design, it's easy to see, but on a web design, maybe not. So getting it somewhere where users can see it, because if you're really trying to promote that upload action, then you want to put that Fab, closer to the user has to go all the way to the bottom right of the screen to see that action.
Yeah, and also, I'm not totally sure if they say do that for upload. I think they have the plus sign for
yeah, there is actually
a
default icon for like doing that sort of thing.
So. All right, so let's go. Got again another day 4 challenge for mood board. Let's see here. This one was from which one did I just click on? I'm actually not sure. All right, well this one. Okay, so mood board. So this one's definitely for web. This one. Let's see here. Is there? Okay, so this one's got scroll on there.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
So we got a bit of scroll. Certainly a lot of images, footers. So this one's just kind of designed like a full website.
Yeah.
This one I would kind of think a little bit about, what's the use case of this? Do I need to add? Is this just presenting? What are the pieces here? I see they've kind of used this fixed header. But overall, if this is like an internal, sort of mood board thing, that's cool. The other ones, had a little bit more categorization, et cetera, et cetera. Some things like this font size is just way too large. This is a good point to be using a style guide. So, just throwing out a point size, I don't know what this is, but this is like 30 or 35 or something. And for a header navigation, we'd be looking more like 18 point. That's in Adobe XD. There's different world in web and mobile of how font sizes are sort of determined. And then just from like a product concept point, I could use a little more understanding of what this one is.
Well, here, can I from a developer perspective, I know in general, grids like this, actually laying things out in this grid, it doesn't matter if you're doing mobile, web, whatever, a grid like that is super, super complicated. It looks awesome in your design, application because you can just drag and drop things all around. But as soon as because ostensibly,
that's a really good point, actually.
Ostensibly, these images are what you would call dynamic, or we don't, at the time of implementing this thing, I don't know what's coming in. I just know that I'm going to be given a bunch of images, and that is great. A bunch of images, and sorry. They're going to be need to be placed out in a grid. So what I would say is, maybe you don't need as complicated of a grid unless this site really has a very intentional purpose for the placement of the things. Otherwise, I would say you could actually simplify it and think about if you're going to give this to a developer, or you're just going to think of it as a site that's out there. Think about the fact that there are lots of different images of lots of different sizes and colors and stuff like that. And honestly, it looks great when you put it on your screen and you can put it on as a proof of concept. But as soon as you get different images, it's going to become very, very you're not going to be able to control it. So definitely just maybe add some intentionality to your or actually kind of like less intentionality to your grid and more general purpose.
Yeah. But it's a good start. And there's different sort of grids like masonry grid versus like a fixed grid and different stuff like that.
And I think like like Pinterest even on web I think goes as maybe wide as like 3 columns. I don't know, but it's like.
So this one we've got Joe, and that was funny. I thought that said pie.
Yeah. Pile? I wish it said pie.
Let's see here. So now this is maybe a little more on repeat grid. So looking at this just from like a type perspective, in the last one I said, use a bit better of a style guide, so there's a little bit more type structure here. There's kind of a bit better, so that the high Luna, is higher weight, meaning bold font, typeface, and then this last updated here. These two work nicely together. They're scaled well with the image. Navigation kind of makes sense. Recently added. This add more word call to action, it kind of depends on what the goal is here, but this is super high prominence. So it kind of depends on what you're going for. And then your dictionary down here looks like it can scale by A. Depending on how long that is, maybe I need some additional navigation, or maybe this needs to be a subsection, like this would scroll within its own box. Because I assume I don't want to get all the way down to Z and then have to scroll all the way back up to Luna and whatnot. Let's click. He's got other boards.
This is like a word nerd app. That's kind of cool. It's like a word mood board.
That's
cool.
So I guess So you could use a repeat grid here. And then let's see on the screen. These X's, I'm not really sure interaction-wise. I'm not really sure what's going to happen when you close this. And then also like, if this is a dictionary, the last time I opened Merriam-Webster, they didn't have like a write your submission, option.
I bet you people would like to do that.
Yeah, but Urban Dictionary does.
Yeah,
Urban
that's right. So
Dictionary
maybe
does.
it's an Urban Dictionary.
So it depends on what you're going for. So.
Yeah, it's what stands out to me when I look at this right away. First of all, the layout it's a very good mobile app layout, like in terms of just spacing and that sort of thing. I like what you said about again, the big thing with mobile layouts is just prioritizing what you want people to do, and people are embracing more and more now. Maybe you don't have to everything on the first screen. You can sort of make decisions about how people are going to navigate in and into your app and stuff like that, and you can take up lots of space. The black and white is good contrast, but I almost wonder if it's a little too contrasty. And so for your primary color, because effectively that black I think is sort of your primary alternate color in your app, and so you're maybe going to lack flexibility, and you may find that when you go to adding certain things in the app, if black is your kind of primary option for colorizing, it may become overbearing quickly. So even making it like gray, a little more gray could ease it up a little bit, but I would say even introducing a little splash of color can help and would give you more flexibility when you're designing for a bunch of different screens.
Yeah, it's totally true. So kind of what Andrew's meaning here in practice is the add more word button and the highlight color for words in the navigation up on the top here. These being the same color as Archipelago, there's a different implication of what action those are, like an add action versus navigation action versus Archipelago. Technically, I think in this design is a big button, but in here it's displayed much more as a card. So current, maybe even past, material design format would be to put it on a card like this, but then have a very clear down here at the bottom right, like a text that says view and stuff like that. And then just that view button would have the view text would have the color. Yeah. So there's more fidelity that you can get at into here and to straighten those out. So, but overall, yeah, it's a pretty good one. Let's check out the next one. This one was also from Joe. Is he over sneaking in? Okay, that's the same. That's on his Behance page.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah. From Deku. Check this out. Was this posted yesterday? Okay, I guess it was today. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this one here. So I guess this one's pretty good. Let's see. I think did you have any other context or day 4?
It's an ongoing project.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like a solid project here. I'm not going to give too much feedback. Looks like he's got a XD UI kit. So go check that out. And then, let's see here. This one, a casual way to find randomized design elements to make mood boards.
Mood boards, interesting. Nice.
All right.
Nice, I like it.
So this is awesome. It's funny. This is great use of the time trigger on XD, and it actually I was like, oh, it's loading. I totally, and then I thought, wait, I'm supposed to review this. Why is it on the second artboard? So I'm going to refresh that page for anybody that missed that. This is a really strong use for. Okay, it looks like we have to go back to the first one. Actually, I haven't used the time triggers in the XD link a whole lot. Maybe if we refresh on this one. But yeah, there we go. So time triggering between different mood boards using auto animate to shift those around to make this auto scene kind of thing. Now, this is something that as a designer, previously maybe I'd have to use After Effects to do. After Effects is an extraordinarily powerful program.
Yeah.
With a different learning curve than a program like
very
XD.
different learning curve.
It's designed for Hollywood. UI designers have certainly used it for a lot of things. I've made a number of things in it, showed developers a number of things in it. But I guarantee you that this person was able to make the animation we just saw in probably the amount of time that it takes to set up a project.
Yeah. I mean, and making that like in After Effects would be super complicated.
Yeah, and you just don't. And kind of what it comes down to is you should use the tool for the fidelity level that you need. So Spark for your quick birthday card flyer, XD for your interaction design work, And then actually I just used After Effects yesterday to make a much more complicated visualization animation for a new feature launch in Spark.
Nice.
It's definitely something I wasn't going to be able to do in XD. I was really
Yeah.
using a lot of features that aren't appropriate for a screen design tool. So, all right, good start here. Moog, and if I sort of forgot, we got so excited what they said that this was. Casual way to find randomized design elements to make mood boards.
Okay.
Moog, the mood board element maker. I guess I should click on, sorry, I'm doing this wrong. One more refresh here.
XD noob, huh?
XD noob. You know, I'm usually on the other side of these share links.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I should click. I'll do better.
All right, so let's go ahead and add one of these.
Nice.
All right,
Nice.
That was pretty cool. So we've got easing and time being used here. So now we're on artboard number 6. Yeah, this is awesome. These are super fun. So I assumed that I'd be able to, I can scroll through.
Okay. Very nice.
You know, and on a full mobile experience, I could probably drag these around, different kind of stuff. That's pretty exciting. All right, the next click is into this. Okay, so now I added it to my piece.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
So I'm assembling something here.
Okay. Yeah. See, it's moving up to the top list.
And
One thought is that this is such an animated app. I think when you click on one of the elements, it should animate up into the little slot.
Agreed. Yep. Agreed. That'd be a good one. Next thing I was going to say was I don't really know why I got a highlight. We had 3 actions. I think I should be able to go back here. Yeah. So we got our first action here. Added that. This one, interaction-wise, I don't know why this plant photo image didn't go into the second position. And then I click on the next option here, and a different behavior happened. So this violates like a pretty big interaction design rule, which is similar actions that have similar outcomes. Because just like in the physical world, if I push the door, like the next time I push the door, it should work the same way. So at this point, I don't really know what's going to happen. Maybe that was multi-select. That could have been multi-select.
Oh, sure. Like maybe you long press on it.
Something like that. Yeah. But
on mobile, that's what you'd have to do. You'd have to, to sort of initiate that multi-select, you'd have to long press on it.
Yeah.
But if it's not immediately clear that you should do that, then you'd need to signify in some way that.
Yeah. A little drag to refresh.
Hold the refresh. Very nice.
That was pretty nicely executed. I see this person over here also likes that. So. Yeah, to be honest, I'm a little unclear where in the application I actually am now. Like those were well executed, but UX flow wise, I'm not totally sure where I'm at. We've added a number of things to our mood board, but it didn't really populate out our list. Whoops, skipping ahead.
I would recommend like a refresh or like a get more cool things button or something somewhere on the UI instead of a pull to refresh, because I think in this sort of a context, it's maybe not going to be, pull to refresh is like, oh, well, I'm loading my email or something like that. In this case, this is such an interactive and such a visual app. You want to kind of guide that user through the flow. And so like, hey, we gave you these cool items. Do you want more? Give me more stuff. Click, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Jason's got a question. Should the thumbnails be adding to the gallery up top rather than replacing the one thumbnail? That's kind of what we're saying.
That's kind of, yeah, I would think so.
I would expect this list to...
it should be growing.
Yeah.
It would seem that the list would be growing.
Well, then this piece was kind of nice, Andrew. You mentioned about the expansion. So I clicked on this E here.
Nice.
Excuse
Bless
me.
you.
Excuse me. And kind of got some of that expanding piece here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so it's kind of going back to what I said. It's like you're expanding out from that sort of list. Things should definitely go in. You're definitely I think maybe I don't know if we've said this specifically, but motion in an app context is meant to communicate something. You know what I mean? Like it needs to communicate something. It needs to communicate that you're achieving something. It needs to communicate something of the brand, and you need to know when you're creating that animation, what am I communicating, and that's going to dictate what the animation does and then sort of how it relates to. So there's animation, that conveys mood, and there's animation that conveys interaction. And these fall into the interaction categories.
Totally.
And so you're communicating, hey, you're building this thing, and then it's going to turn into this mood board for you. So make the animations very intentional. The material design docs talk about that too.
Yeah, that's also true, what he said.
Yeah.
We'll hire him as junior
That's
designer.
right. Make me a designer.
Yeah. All right, let's keep on cruising through. That was the last one. Looks like we're going back into day 3. Well, we've only got a couple minutes left here anyways.
If there's any final questions in the chat about anything we covered today, any feedback?
Cool. So
right.
we've got
Get
1
your
minute
comments
here. Just kind of looking at this one. This is pretty nice visual design. Let's see what the interaction goes for.
Yeah, nice.
So this looks nice at first, but also there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of color contrast. So I just think maybe back this off a little bit, tone down some of these, and think about what's the real important piece here. It looks like these might be tab selections for different parts of the screen, which should maybe be a little different visual treatment than the cards, similar feedback as the other one.
The top buttons typically are meant to signify like 2 primary operations for that screen. So like the assumption in my mind would be you click on bright and you get a completely different
Exactly, yeah.
screen.
So I'd say this one's a really strong start, but down here this looks like a primary action when this is maybe to switch the screen. So how much do you want that competing with these or vice versa? There's an argument there for both depending on what it is. And so what else? Okay, we got a little auto animate in there. That's fun. So I turned that light on, I guess.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
Yes, okay. So I got the card. Okay. Bright and dim. I guess these are presets. So the bright preset.
Okay.
Light 1, yeah,
Okay.
light 2.
Okay.
So yeah, I would. There's a little different way that I think I would treat that one. So, cool. So thanks for joining the feed here today. This was a little bit of a new style.
Yeah. Please give
Designer
feedback.
Andrew Watson, developer. No, I keep doing that.
I know.
Developer
Sure, I'll be
Andrew,
the designer.
designer
Yeah.
me, and
Developer me. And come back tomorrow because we've got lots of other cool things to talk about. And if you want it to get real nerdy, we can do that.
Yeah,
Show some
tomorrow we're going to be
code.
going through some
No, we
code.
won't spend a lot of time.
You'll see some code tomorrow.
You'll see some code tomorrow, but it's not the focus.
Yeah, there we go.
Cool.
And
Thanks everyone for
hopefully
watching.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.